Welcome to SOL 106, Study Section 6, Community Development. Introduction. Community development has come into international usage to connote the processes by which the efforts of the people themselves are united with those of governmental authorities to improve the economic, social, and cultural conditions of the communities, so as to integrate these communities into the life of the nation. In this study session, we will examine the nature and objectives of community development. We will also discuss the implication of social changes and how community development operates on the premises that people need change, not only to improve their communal life, but also their whole community. Learning outcomes. After you have studied this study session, you should be able to 1. Describe the nature, community development. 2. Highlight the objectives of community development. 3. Discuss the implication of social changes in community development. 4. Discuss the components and operations of community development. 5. Explain the nature basic elements that guide the process of community. 6. Explain the principle of evaluation that guide community development. The nature of community development. Community development is a method by which the people of a village are involved in helping to improve their own economic, social conditions, and thereby become effective working groups in programs of their national development. Roberts 1979 and Stumpf 1971 perceive community development program as a process within a given community of broadly raising the structures, stimulating latent local initiative and self-help abilities, directing energies on selected major aspects of community life. Kinduka 1971 states that programs covered by the community development include agriculture, irrigation, sanitation, health education, cottage industries, employment, and youth development. Anyanwu 1999 also lists the components of community development to include agriculture, irrigation, rural industries, education, including literacy, health, housing, social welfare, youth and women programs, cooperatives, and the training of village leaders. This indicates that community development covers a wide range of human activities in rural and urban areas. Community development has to be seen, therefore, as marking the process in the life of the community by which the people learn and act together for the satisfaction of their felt needs. Essentially, community development is movement for a better living. Community development remains a weapon for social changes. Kinduka 1971. Its purpose is to bring about an improvement in the life of the people through changes in their living conditions. Its main aim is the willing, cooperative effort of the people themselves in measured design to improve their community. Community development is the tool for the induction of desirable ages in the society. It helps to resolve issues in situations demanding the promotion of change deliberately carried out by the people. Adewale 1996. It has been observed that community development is concerned with a twofold study of the value system and the structural functioning of a community. As a result of this, some method of classification may be identified in the examination of its impact. Anyanwu 1992. Objectives of community development. In the implementation of community development, some people lay emphasis on the material improvement of communities and achievement of tangible goals such as school, well, dam, or road, while other people insist that the importance of community development does not lie so much on material improvement, but to build up community through improvement in the life of the individuals and make them the builder of their own villages and the architects of their own well-being. Anyanwu, 1992. The first objective of community development is to educate and motivate the people for self-help. This is done through working willingly for it and developing the will to win them. In this process of education, people will learn and appreciate that community development means self-development by the community as a whole. The second objective is to develop responsible leadership among the people. This is done during the first stage by looking for a person who is knowledgeable and also has the skill for such task. The third objective is to inculcate knowledge in the sensible way to people who have been conscientized about the program. By combining this with technical resources of governments, the goals of the program will be achieved. The people should know that any community development program is their own program that is designed for their development and benefits, and they should participate in it. The fourth objective is to introduce and strengthen democracy from the grassroots level through the creation of institutions designed that are to serve as an instrument of local participation. Anyanwu, 1999. This is compulsory because community development has to make use of organization and institutions at the level of locality in which it operates. This is why it has to rely on local leaders who will carry community development to the grassroots and can help local communities to develop their skills in relation to their traditional employment. Communal organizations such as age, grade, and so on can be encouraged to set their authority and power behind community development. Religion leader can be of high advantage. The fifth objective is to initiate self-generative, self-sustaining, and enduring process of growth. This is an essential objective which teaches the community not to rely on ready-made solution of others. They should diagnose their own problem and initiate actions toward its solution. The sixth objective is to enable people to establish and maintain cooperative and harmonious leadership in their community. In community development, cooperation is really needed so that their desire for changes for better living among the people in their community can be achieved. Cooperation among people brings togetherness and promotes healthy communication and interaction among the people, which involve introduction of new ideas among the people. The seventh objective is to bring about self-chosen change in the life of a community with a minimum of stress. Self-chosen change is important because nothing good can be achieved from an outsider to a community without the involvement of the people in such community, since they are in the best position to identify their needs and access what is good for them. This is possible when there is effective communication, which can be used to share experience. Implication of social changes in community development. The purpose of community development is to bring about an improvement in the life of the people through changes in the living conditions of the people in the community. Its main aim is the willing cooperative effort of the people themselves in measures designed to improve their community. Community development was to replace mass education, village development, and fundamental education. It was designed to make people cooperate to be effectively close to their local government bodies. The reason why mass education was replaced with community development was that Africans knew and believed that such an education was for primitive people. The term mass education was misleading and inadequate because the word education by that time was not true to its meaning. Adewale, 1996. Community enhances any group, small or large, that lives together in such a way that its people share things together while development is at optimal realization of the well-being of the people in that community. Community development denotes changes, that is, it involves a movement from one point to another point. Changes can be modified or induced, for example, when it is really planned in order to achieve projected goals. Community development refers to improvement of the community, which can be upward or downward. The community development implies that changes occur from a situation less good to one better in the life of the community. The implication of community development for social changes marks this change in the life of a community at which people plan and work together to satisfy their felt needs, which reduce to social change. Such a change will enable men and women to work together to control their physical environment and make use of their resources in order to improve their standard of living. Community development is a process by which efforts of the people are united with that of government to improve the economic, social, and cultural conditions of communities. Community development involves social changes because its primary purpose is to bring change for better living within the community. Roberts, 1979. Operations of community development. The main element of community development is to identify and decide what to do in order to achieve development. This is possible if the people in the community can identify their problems and be prepared to do something to solve these problems. In other words, project selection is an important feature of community development since it deals with problem identification. It also involves mobilization of local manpower to execute the projects. The first stage is on systematic discussion of common felt needs by members of a community. The desire of the people may be raised so as to make meaningful achievement to satisfy their needs, and the needs can be felt in the way the people live. Therefore, discussion is centered on how people can make effort to better their conditions. This can be achieved through discussion with individual or a few group of people, later tentatively shared with others. Anyanwu, 1992. The first stage of discussion can become the beginning of diagnosis and later identify other people who can carry the discussion to wider public for further discussion and plan for positive action to bear upon the needs. The second stage usually emphasizes systematic planning to select what people want to do to satisfy their felt needs, which have to be within the community, self-help capacity. At this point, there will be wider discussion on what causes the problem and the options left to the community. This will lead to the project that is selected to satisfy the community needs. Adebagbo, 2006. The main elements here are to identify and decide what to do to achieve development. This is possible if they can identify their problem and prepare to do something to solve this problem. Project selection is an important feature of community development. It deals with practical that involves mobilization of local manpower who are to execute the projects of development. It is the stage that mobilizes community to do something for itself. And another important thing here is the efficiency of the local leader to direct the organization of the community projects in order to explain the aims of the project to their people, and people should cooperate actively. The third stage is the mobilization of the physical, economic, and social resources from the community to build up social services. This process usually comes from the people voluntary labor with technical and monetary assistance from the government and other agencies wherever possible. Once a community starts to work on a project which is hoped will yield benefit to the whole community, members of such community shall start contributing to its successful completion. The essence of governmental and non-governmental agencies is to encourage a sense of initiative, self-help, and mutual assistance among the people and make community efforts productive. It is at this stage that people know that community development means self-development by the community as a whole and not development of the community by government or any extraneous body. Adewale, 1996. The fourth stage is identifying more resources needed for maintenance of the previous stage. It is at this stage that community interests and efforts are known. Some people will also make effort to provide public services maintenance at this stage. The fifth stage of community development is identification and evaluation. Evaluation will point out the progress and it will show whether the objectives of making the projects meet the needs of the people. The people's capacity to absorb change for better living and their participatory potentiality in the program, whether or not the project has changed the people's general conditions or it has improved their patterns of behavior of the people, or whether they acquire more knowledge, skill, and attitude, or it has promoted human development as well. All this will be known through evaluation process. The evaluation will enable the community to know the next step to follow, and this must have relation with the objective. Anyanwu, 1992. Community development marks the stage in the life of a community at which people plan and work together to satisfy their felt needs, that is, social change. Such a change will enable men and women work together to control their physical environment and better make use of their resources in order to improve their conditions of living. Such a change must be directed such that it brings about in the citizens self-respect, moral, and mental progress. The process of community development. Community development operates on the premises that people need change, not only to improve their communal life, but also their whole community. It's a people-centered process. This means that community development, first of all, revolves around the felt needs of the people in a community. Local participation and involvement are important things of community development. This means that the people who will enjoy this effort should recognize in themselves that they should commit themselves to the program. Identification of leadership should be the first thing to recognize as the early stage of community development process. Although the communities will make use of their own resources, They still require governments and other external assistance to self-help projects. Where villagers are not interested or apathetic to the progress, we should let them be aware of their need and let them know that things can change for betterment. Amadike, 1989. Community development relies on community leaders because these local leaders are important to act as agents of change in their community. These local leaders may be volunteers. They are the real agents of social improvements in their communities. Leadership is a factor that ensures cooperation among the people in any community. It's a leader who has accesses to interact and convince his members about any program. He can create incentives that make other people effectively. He creates faith in a number of things that may generate community development. Anyanwu, 1992. The relationships among rural people are personal and in most cases face-to-face. The leaders knows more about people individually and have a better knowledge and understand them better. He is able to recognize more readily if there is any conflict within the community than a leader in a complex urban community. This is possibly because the motives and rights of a group and individuals in a rural area can be easily detected. Rural community is an ideal place for democratic leadership to work. The leader in any community is part of the group or community. A leader must have the ability to lead, not to drive. He exercises authority smoothly. He must function as a member, accept and uphold the sanctions of the community. In organizing people to develop their leadership role by their relationship with one another, he must lead them to know how to work together cooperatively. He should be able to summarize the objectives of his community and to help them analyze the one they have met on, and also help them bring the resources at their disposal to bear on their needs. He must understand the principal purpose of bringing about changes for better living among the people of his community. He must work and help the people identify their problem and lead them to the resolution of the problem. This is the starting point of community development. He has to be sure that the people too participate by cooperating with him in planning, execution, utilization, and assessment of any projects. This will give the pride of ownership after completing the projects. He should lead his people to understand that their reliance on the resources of the community will lead to an appreciation and good management of the resource from outsiders as government agencies give them to help them during their project in order to achieve their felt needs. Anyanwu, 1999. It should lead them to appreciate the principle of self-help, which is the end product of community development. This self-help enables the people make use of their resources judiciously to achieve social development. The community leader should work closely with the development agents so that democracy can come in, that mere political mechanism, so that there may be proper cooperation among them and the people they are leading. He must lead his people to appreciate the fact that the involvement of the masses in development program will help to remove the feeling that the government is removed from the people. Even popular involvement in any development program gives the people a sense of identity with the government. Furthermore, popular involvement in community development enables the people concerned to reason together and understand themselves. This ultimately leads to social cohesion. As community development has been defined as a process by which the efforts of the people with those of the government are used to improve the social changes of any community. The whole idea is that if people want development, they must sacrifice their time and contribute money to achieve their desires. The government has to direct local effort to national objectives by policy formulation, financial assistance, and technical support program, and also monitor in order to ensure that the services of government are effective. Government should eradicate poverty and stagnance in the village which has adopted better living, and it should create a sense of responsibility and involvement in the development of their community and their country. Adebagbo, 2006. In the process, the government helps the people at the village level to use their local initiative and resource to achieve increased production and higher standard of living. The people have to define, solve, and actually work out their problems and rely on their local resources. People can feel the impact of social change through the democratic process. The essential thing about community development is that it is people-centered. Human factor in national development is one of the basic factors in national planning. The improvement of human factor at the village level tends to alleviate some problems of economic and social adjustment at the grassroots level. It promotes the efforts of the government to tackle the problem of unemployment in the rural areas. Human factors also minimizes the alarming flow of the youth from rural areas to towns. It highlights the social and political values of community development as a means of strengthening the democratic process through encouraging people to discuss and act together to solve their own problems. Community development touches all the activities of government ministries such as agriculture, health, commerce, industry, housing, social welfare, education, and cooperative. The implication is that all the activities of government ministries have to integrate with the overall development needs of local communities. The extension workers have been specifically trained by the government to act as change agents and thus contribute greatly in the development of community, which in turn promotes innovative approaches for community transformation. These change agents are involved in the method and techniques by which the local community links its development to the wider plans of the national government through self-help and the extension worker from various ministries. Local community can learn how to generate economic and social growth. In this process of doing or executing their projects, local communities can expand their activities and increase the self-confidence and involve themselves in the economic and social life of their country. Anyanwu, 1991. Local governments play the role of providing things for the people under their communities, and they act as a link between their people and the state governments. The local government that is nearer to the people and provides information from the government to its people and from its people to the government. It is through the local government that the daily activities of the state come to the local communities. Hence, some people at the local level take the local government to be real governments. In the field of agriculture, local governments enable the people to adopt better methods of soil conservation, better method of crop farming, and better care of livestock. Improvements in agriculture will provide income and employment for many people in local communities by making use of modern technology equipment for farm. Local government will succeed in changing from traditional form of production to modern forms through giving guidance to modern demand for cash crop. Adewale, 1996. In the field of health, the local government may introduce programs to safeguard the health of the people by promoting the betterment of the people through better sanitation, provision of better water supply, proper hygiene and improved infant and maternal welfare in the communities. Education in this line will enable people to know the importance of good health and food, and also know the importance of balanced diet. In the field of civic and political development, the role of the local government is to educate people about elections and allied matters. The local government should let them know the importance of civil awareness, promote programs about government's community betterment, voting and political affairs. They will know the importance of national security, the evil effects of smuggling and corruption on national development. Local government also transform the life of communities through the integration of education and training. Evaluation in community development. Evaluating a program simply means how well a job has been done, that is, judging the worth of any contribution, and it is essential for any organizational process. It is mainly to put the progress of any program and make work more effective and enable us to know whether the objectives or goals are achieved. It helps to modify or change a system if the objectives is not yet achieved by replanning again until the objective is achieved. Evaluation in community development involves an assessment of results of human action and achievements. Community development also involves the use of resources outside their community, like the government or non-governmental agencies. These are injected into the community as a means of supplementing the resources for the improvement of the economic, social, and cultural condition of the people. Even some experts who direct the course of community development are from outside. It is therefore necessary to evaluate all the outside efforts injected to know whether they achieve their goals. Anyanwu, 1992. Evaluation in community development follows a process of assessing the development that the community has achieved or undertaken. The exercises become a form of action research whose practical purpose is to help participants in improving their knowledge and promote their well-being. This has to be a participatory activity. At the planning stage, a general idea is formed around the problem, and the problem is examined later. A plan of action is formulated with some specific objectives. Steps are taken to carry out the plan as laid down by the community. In the process, the needs are evaluated to know whether the objectives are achieved. Following this initial assessment, a recycle of planning, execution, evaluation is used to know whether to modify or alter the motivation it has injected into community at this stage. The findings from the initial assessment will now guide the people in the process of completing the program and taking more programs if need be. Study session summary. In this study session, we discussed the concept of community development as a conscious effort to bring about change for better living within a community. Furthermore, we examined the objectives of community development, that is, the purposes the project of community is to serve. This section also examined the nature of community development. In the process, we discussed the implication of social changes in community development. We discussed the components of community development as well as the operations involved in the project of community development. In other words, we examined the stages involved in the implementation of any community development project. Finally, we explored how community development projects can be evaluated. We have come to the end of study section 6, and thank you very much for listening.